Hey guys, lepedaler back with another video. Today I'm going to be sharing you guys my thoughts on how to stay motivated with indoor training and just share some tips really quick off the top of my head of how you guys can stay motivated with these unpredicted times with no goals or maybe no events to really look forward to or have the motivation to train. So I'm just going to give you guys my thoughts of what I'm doing to keep busy, and let's jump right into that. Currently, I have almost 9,000 kilometers logged for 2020. I've done all my rides indoor except for one outdoor ride, and that was because the weather was around 15 degrees early April, and I thought it would be a good idea to ride outside, but I learned quickly I hate the cold. I never liked the cold, especially if you have good equipment. It's still not enjoyable because you sweat very easily and it gets kind of chilly, and I'm just not someone that digs the cold. I find the quality of training I get indoors is far superior sometimes also, just because I can really bury my head in and get a good effort. But as soon as the weather does get better, I would say above 16, 17 degrees, I'm going to be outdoors just because you can't beat the outdoors. But I'm very thankful for where I live, which is Toronto, Canada. We can still train outdoors, so especially when the weather gets better late May, I'm going to be outdoors on my bike. But yeah, I've done almost 9,000 kilometers of indoor training since the beginning of 2020. So since January, I've done almost 9,000 kilometers. I'm right now at 8,700 kilometers. And I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, but I want to share you guys how I have stayed motivated, and that's basically with just planning. I have a structured training plan that I've made, and it's very easy for you guys to find some basic structured training plans online. Platforms such as Swift and other online platforms for training have structured training plans. If you guys are super unfamiliar, first time at ever using structured training to get started, then again, I have my critiques with every structured training plan because it's very generic. You have to figure out what type of riding you do, and figure out how much rest you need, where your power zones are, what specific improvements you want to make in your cycling. But it's a good place to start, and I think that's where people lose focus, and that's why motivation, even with all this extra free time, is so hard to come by, is because people are not focused. And what I mean by that is that cycling is great if you just want to ride and enjoy. You can totally do that. There's days when I want to do that, but I would say for most people, what makes cycling enjoyable is when you get relatively fit and you see that progress, and because you're at that level of fitness, you can enjoy a lot of the riding. Where I would say for the most part, unless you live somewhere really flat, and not to call out Florida, but unless you live somewhere where there's not a lot of like rolling hills and you don't really cross any hills on your rides, then when you do have that situation when you run into a climb and your fitness is not that up because you haven't been training relatively to getting better, you're not going to enjoy cycling. And I can totally say there's been lots of times where I wouldn't train for 3 weeks. I would be busy with work or school, and I would go on a ride that I was used to do in the past, which I would have a blast on because I'd be ripping up hills and descending and having a really good time. And then because I wasn't training, I would go up this hill and it would feel like my legs were on fire. I was like, oh my God, why am I doing this? It just wasn't enjoyable, right? And I can understand that for some people that's okay because they don't ride that often. But I would say for people that do this recreational or they do it for enjoyment, you would still want to enjoy the overall experience. And I feel like when you don't have a steady way of progressing your fitness, it doesn't become enjoyable. So I feel like, by that whole little rant, is that how I stay motivated with all this indoor training is knowing as soon as I get back outside, which we all know is going to eventually happen. You have to abide by your government and the regulations, but I would hope that eventually we will come back to outdoor riding, and having that fitness steadily improve, or just maintaining whatever fitness you had going into indoor training. When you do get outside, you'll have the benefit of all that training paying off when you start getting back with your friends and riding again in groups or racing. Like those gains are not going to be all this effort that I'm putting in right now. It's not going to disappear or go in the garbage. Like, I'm going to use these gains eventually when I do get back on the road. So that's how I kind of stay motivated, is knowing that everything I'm doing now is going to help in the later. And I feel like people that use this as an excuse, say, oh, there's no goals, there's no group rides, like, why am I riding? Or they just ride when they feel like it. Like, that's totally fine, because no one should be forced or feel like they're obligated to ride just to keep a level of fitness. But like I said, with everything in life, there is some level of maintenance you have to do. And when you do that level of maintenance, you're able to sustain a good level of enjoyment from whatever you do. So what I mean by that is that there's days where, you might not want to do a specific task, and at the back of your head, like, there's days where you love doing that task, but if you don't do that task, and maintain it, if you do want to do that task at a good level, you won't be able to. So I'm just saying, you need to think of the bigger picture, right? Like, just to give you guys an idea, in January I've done 49 hours of training. February I've done 61 hours of training. March I've done 75 hours of training, and in April I've done 71 hours of training. And that, I would say, is pretty substantial, all indoors. And I just think of it like, you know what? When outdoors come, which is May, June, July, August, September, I'm going to have a blast, and I'm going to ride so much outdoors and really enjoy it. So that's kind of like my motivation, even if there isn't racing or, group rides, which I love. Don't get me wrong. I love that. And that's a big reason of why I ride. I'm still going to have a blast by myself. And I feel like that's another thing too, is that I have goals now because I'm not racing. So for me, I love group rides. I love socializing. I love, riding with others, and I love racing. I feel like that's a big goal in terms of getting fitter, like getting to the elite level of training, like to the point where you're serious every day. You're following a structured routine. You're following your diet a little bit more closely. You're focusing on sleep. Like, that's if you're trying to get the maximum performance out of cycling in terms of what you can do as a rider. But now shifting that, because for Canada, I think all events have been postponed till I think mid-July. So nothing's happening before July as of right now. So, definitely if that's what's being confirmed, I would expect that's the best case scenario, which who knows if there will even be a season this year. And that's fine. I don't look at that as a negative thing. I look at it as like, wow, I can set other goals now that I find as a rider enjoyable. And what I feel like I wanted to do, I want to incorporate this during the season anyways. I want to do a lot of like long gravel rides, or even long days in the saddle on my road bike. And that's one thing I find when you are a racer or someone just trains a lot, you can burn out pretty easily. And I've already experienced that this month, where I think I did a 650 kilometer block of training one week. Then I did 800 kilometers, 800 and something kilometers the next week. And then I went back to, I think, like 580-ish kilometers to 600. And I was burnt that week. So, it's very easy, because if you're doing structured training, that's what I mean by, like, if you're doing structured training within those training blocks, 600, 800, 600 kilometers of structured training with intensity and intervals, that's really, tiring. But, if you're just doing zone 2 and a lot of endurance, like 600 kilometers worth of endurance, that's relatively easy, because you're not like pushing your body to the point where it needs to actually recover. So, if summer comes around and like there's definitely no events, I'm still going to put hopefully, 2 to 3 weeks of structured training, but the rest I can easily do, 130, 160 kilometers days in the saddle, which I would find very enjoyable, just because usually in the race season, there's very few opportunities to do that because you need to recover, right? So I'm just really excited to get back on my bike, to go exploring. I have a lot of gravel rides that I plan on doing that is going to be super fun. Just get out of my comfort zone and just really not have an excuse not to ride. And, with this fitness, with this, big chunk of fitness I'm going to have, is just, I've put the work in. Like, I will almost have 10,000 kilometers done by the end of May. So that means June, July, August, September, I'm going to already have a good block of training in my legs, and just, see where that fitness takes me. So I'm very excited. I hope for the best that, group rides, at least group rides, come back. I would hope that. Then again, government has to deem it fine and things relatively come back to normal, but I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see that until late August, early September, and I'm fine with that. Like I said, I'm cool with doing solo rides. That's one of the biggest things, and a lot of cyclists, I feel like, agree with that to some degree, is that cycling is a solo sport. A lot of the training you do is by yourself, so I don't feel like it's something that's necessary for the sport. Yet again, we're lucky that you don't need a partner to cycle with, in terms of just in terms of doing it. Obviously for racing you need others, but just in terms of doing it, it's nice that you can do it by yourself. And that's one of the main reasons I got into cycling, was I like doing things that are pretty solitary, in terms of just being in my own zone, my own domain. So I hope you guys like this little rant. Just thought I would share how I stay motivated. It's not easy. It is tough to day after day ride indoors. I'd say on average I ride 2 hours at least every day. So 2 hours. I don't know if you guys have heard it. I don't believe it, but they say like 2 hours of the trainer is double, so it's like 4 hours outdoor. I don't know if that's true, but if that's true, then I'm a beast. But no, I'm just playing. Yeah, I'm just excited to see all that hard work pay off. And I would just say, for you guys, please like take this time. You have a lot of time, I would assume, unless you're on the front lines or very busy. I would hope that you guys take this opportunity to really write down goals that you have for this summer. If you know racing's canceled or that group rides are canceled and you won't, really be doing any socializing in terms of riding, figure out what goals you guys want to do. Figure out what type of rides do you want to do. I know a lot of people always have a ride that they say, if I get the weekend off during the summer, or 3 days off during the summer, I would do this ride. So if you guys have time to plan out some routes. Take the time. I did it earlier in April. I took, I think, one whole day. I just went on Strava. I went on Garmin Connect and planned routes with the GPS. And I made about like 10 solid routes that I really hope to crush. So you guys should do it. It's the perfect time to explore new routes, and just get on your bike again and really figure out what you love with cycling. I read this somewhere where, with cycling, in terms of racing and group rides, a lot of people lose motivation because a lot of times people want to prove others that, like, hey, I'm stronger than you, or I'm just as strong as you, and like and that's good. I think competition is always good because it pushes everyone to do better. But like, I think this situation really makes you question as a cyclist, like, why do I cycle? And I've that hit me for a while. And yeah, like, it's hard because for a lot of people it gets to a routine where I ride and I don't really think about it because at the back of my head I know, like, oh, I'm doing this for either racing or just because I want to be fit when I ride outdoors. But it did hit me. I was like, wait, if racing's canceled, why am I riding this much? But I know, I have other goals. Racing isn't the only thing I do. So if I want to ride 160 kilometers and do adventure rides and gravel rides to like new roads, places that are far, I need that fitness. So that's my kind of goals. I hope you guys figure out what goals you guys want to accomplish, even just for general fitness, right? Like, without racing or even exploration, just being on the bike for at least an hour a day, you need to, I would say, minimum, just to stay fit. So in terms of fitness, you got to stay on the bike, and anything else, other goals, just really depends on what you hope to accomplish. So that was my little rant. I know I say little, but that was pretty long. But that's how I kind of justify being on the trainer every day indoors. It is tough, but the motivation is there. I encourage everyone to get on their bikes if the only thing is indoors. I hope you guys stay motivated to at least get an hour every day if you can. And hopefully when everything goes back to normal, or even if it doesn't, but if you can solo ride in your area, that's really awesome, because I'm very thankful that I can do that, especially when the weather warms up. But if not, just stay motivated, stay strong, just focus on day-to-day riding, and eventually we will all be able to hopefully resume normal riding outdoors. And hopefully we don't take riding outdoors for granted, because I couldn't imagine riding indoors all year, never outside. So let's end it on a positive note. I hope you guys all stay fit, all get your training done, or just ride, and just really keep on pedaling. I know I say that every time at the end of my videos, but that's a big highlight of my channel, just to encourage everyone to just continue riding, stay on their bike, and just get it done. So until the next one, keep on pedaling.